I have a very real problem with authority. Sometimes in a dramatic way, but mostly in a very specific and very petty way, right? Like, I don't like being told what to do, especially when I was already going to do it. And it took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to realize that that exact trait was the same one making me a worse leader. And if you're new here, I'm Jen. I translate bad leadership into plain language so you can use it as your leadership cheat code to lead differently. And I think this is a specific dynamic that a lot of people carry without ever naming it. And that is the gap between what you can't stand having done to you and then what you end up doing to other people the second that you're the one in charge. And I'm using myself as the case study today because I obviously have direct access to the evidence. The pattern showed up in me as trouble with authority, right? For you, it might look completely different, but the mechanics underneath are probably the same, right? Leadership development gets sold as this sort of like separate skill set, right? Communication frameworks, delegation models, feedback formulas, all useful, but also all very incomplete on their own. Because leadership development is not separate from personal development, I don't think. It's personal development wearing a blazer, right? Whatever you can't tolerate as a follower is very often the exact same thing that you inflict on other people who follow you. Maybe just relabeled as diligence or high standards or care, whatever. First example, any time that my parents or a boss gave me an instruction that I was already 2 seconds from doing on my own, I didn't want to do it anymore. I would do it, but I didn't want to. Purely just because it was framed as a directive instead of my own idea. The second that someone told me what to do instead of letting me get there myself, there was some part of me that was just quietly like dug in, even when I agreed completely that a task needed to be done. So what this usually reveals is that the resistance was never really about the task, right? It was about who got credit for the decision. Interestingly enough, after doing a lot of personal development stuff, I caught myself doing the identical thing to people who reported to me, right? I would jump in before someone finished a task. I needed to be the one who said it first or loudest or in exactly the way that I wanted it said. When it happened to me, it felt like being controlled. And when I did it to someone else, it felt like being thorough, right? And so in a real business context, this is the manager who reviews every draft 3 times before it's even done, right? Or rewrites a team member's work instead of just giving feedback and letting them fix it themselves. The exact flavor of being told what to do that got under my skin was the exact flavor of control that I ended up handing out. And so if what bothers you is being, handed something with no context, right? You either maybe over-explain everything to the point of smothering people, or you just swing the other way and then expect people to just know because you resent having to explain yourself. If what bothers you is being second-guessed, maybe you get defensive when someone questions a decision, which teaches your team not to bring you problems, right? It's a different root irritation and flavor of control, but it's the same underlying mechanism. The most dangerous part of this pattern is how easy it is to rename, right? Because nobody calls their own micromanaging a wound. They call it diligence or high standards, or they call it caring more than everyone else, right? And that relabeling is what lets the pattern survive completely unchecked because it's dressed up as a virtue instead of what it actually is. Left alone, this costs you exactly what it costs the people who did it to you, right? Teams that stop bringing you information because they've learned it isn't safe to. People who disengage instead of pushing back because pushing back never worked when you did it either, right? There's a reputational cost too, right? Because the manager known for hovering doesn't get better talent asking to work under them. And it costs you personally because you end up recreating the exact experience that you resented, except now you're the one causing it and you likely won't notice until someone else starts resisting you the way that you used to resist your own bosses. So, the takeaways. Number 1, identify the specific thing that you can't stand having done to you. Interruptions, being second-guessed, handed something with no context, told what to do when you were already halfway there. Number 2, trace that specific irritation forward into your own leadership, right? Look for the exact behavior and not just the general sense of, I might be controlling. And then 3, notice when you're renaming the behavior as a virtue. Sometimes that's okay, but not in these sort of instances. Diligence, high standards, and caring more are 3 of the most common disguises. And then number 4, separate the task from the ego. Most authority resistance is about who gets credit for the decision and not whether the decision was right. And then number 5, let people finish before you correct them. Most micromanaging happens mid-task, not after. So notice what you can't stand as a follower, because that's probably exactly what you're doing as a leader. And as always, remember to like, subscribe, drop a comment, all the YouTube things. If you'd like to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee at the link in the description, or you can check out some of my digital products. I do try to add something new every month, and I'll see you in the next one.